Did you know that there is an Ethiopian proverb that says, when spiders unite, they can tie down a lion? What that basically means is that a lot can be achieved when individuals work together for a common goal. And today we'll present a few examples of that. I am Sandra Twinovideo and welcome to Eco Africa.
Hey there, Sandra. It's good to see you again. As you can see, it's a lovely day here in Lagos State. Perfect conditions for presenting this new edition of our Environment Show. I'm Chris Alems, and here's a look at what we have coming up. We'll look into a cool way to extend the shelf life of fresh produce. Find out why live and let live should also include animals. And hear how high-tech can help dolphins avoid fishing nets. There is no denying that our world is changing and changing fast in so many ways. That's forced a lot of us to make some major adjustments to the way we work and live. Here on Eco Africa, we've had numerous reports on how dwindling fish stocks are impacting lives in coastal towns. So what happens when things get so bad that people need to find entirely new ways to make a living? Our first report takes us to the Ivory Coast, where women are living the wave of change.
These women are salt producers on their way to collect their raw material, seawater. Traditionally, the domain of women in this coastal community, salt production was achieved by boiling seawater over wood fires until just the white crystals were left. But firewood collection has had a devastating impact on the local mangrove forests. But that's all changed thanks to the input from an alliance of environmental organizations called Ivory Evolve, which helps rural communities to live more sustainably. In this case, the women have learned how to let the water evaporate naturally.
At first, we thought it was a little strange. How can water in the basins turn to salt under the sun? We found it a bit hard to believe. But I told my friends that we had to join the project to see how it would turn out, and we did. And the day we saw the salt, we were so pleased.
For a long time, fishing was the main business in the village, which lies between the ocean and the lagoon on the edge of Azagni National Park. But as fish stocks dwindled, the new salt harvesting technique provides a reliable source of income. It's also crucial to protect the mangrove ecosystem, which is a breeding ground for fish and a vital supply of food for the families here. The Ivory Evolve project here is coordinated by Maurice Tano Kamelan. He says action was urgently needed because Azagni National Park was under threat from human encroachment. In addition, the local communities had to learn new skills to deal with climate change.
When we set up the project, it was clear that women should be involved because they end up involving everyone else. The men are more or less obliged to assist them, and the children also help out. So by involving women to a greater extent, we engage the whole family in the project.
So far, they've involved 50 women, each of whom has brought at least 7 more people. Along with saving the mangroves in the south of the park, the land invasions in the north have been halted. A very successful tool in this course is beekeeping. Women have joined forces to set up 175 beehives. The bees produce most honey when left undisturbed, which is the best argument for leaving the habitat intact.
The hives help us to protect the park because we only come to the entrance to remove the honey without harming the bees or cutting the trees.
These projects aim to make communities more resilient and empowered to face future challenges. To this end, Ivory Evolve is working with association in Azagni National Park founded by the Ivorian Office of Parks and Reserves.
We want an approach that conserves resources and helps communities to take charge of their own affairs. After training, after explaining the situation, after proposing the method, they themselves adapt the method to their own way of doing things, and we find that really remarkable.
The approach is already paying off. The pressure on the national park, its vital mangrove biosphere, and vast marshlands has noticeably eased. Local communities are also finding new confidence.
Here are communities of women, women's associations that are fighting for economic support and survival while at the same time managing to respect the environment. The results are impressive.
As climate change and resources depletion continues, the villagers' concerns about their future have not altogether disappeared. But the Afri Evolve project has shown them that they can adapt.
Here in Africa, women are the backbone of society. And whether it's fair or not, women are usually the ones who look after the home and family, which includes preparing meals. In Nigeria, many people buy their fresh fruits and vegetables at farmers' markets.
You're right about that, Chris, but the problem is that this nutritious produce spoils very quickly in the heat, and that really is tragic when you think of all the resources that go into growing it. Luckily, that might soon be a thing of the past.
On the outskirts of Lagos, fruit and vegetables are being grown for the more than 15 million inhabitants of Nigeria's largest city. There hasn't been room for that within the city limits for a long time now. Rapid urban growth means it takes longer to get produce from the farms to the customers. That means the harvested vegetables have to be delivered quickly, as there is a lack of refrigeration facilities across the country. A large proportion of fresh produce spoils before it can be sold. It's something that's frustrated Ramota Olaoke ever since she opened her business 13 years ago.
We try to sell new produce before the end of the next day. When it's very sunny, we cover it so it won't spoil quickly. The price drops when it's no longer fresh. Before, I sold these for almost 10,000 naira, but now I had to sell them for less than 6,000 naira. Once they've spoiled, we have to throw them out. It's a waste and we lose money.
At the same time, many people in Lagos haven't got enough to eat. Michael Sumbola is the founder of Lagos Food Bank that distributes food to those who need it. He says food waste is increasing.
An average Nigerian wastes about 189 kilograms of food per year. More than 40% of the food we produce is lost across the entire agricultural value chain. The value of food that goes to waste, right, annually in Nigeria is more than 750 billion US dollars. Most of our farmers don't have that capacity to store food for a long period of time for future sale. A lot of food that ends up in landfill causes greenhouse gas emissions that affect the climate.
There is one solution to the lack of cold storage space. Cold Hubs was developed by a Nigerian startup financed by a wide range of international investors.
We intend to extend the shelf life of this produce from 2 to about 21 days. So this cold room has been helping a lot to solve the problem of post-harvest losses and food waste.
Cold Hubs now operates in 28 states in Nigeria and has over 6,000 customers. The walk-in cold rooms are located next to markets or on farms and are cooled entirely using solar energy. Customers like trader Kabiru Musa pay the equivalent of 25 euro cents per day for a stored crate of vegetables. To him, it's worth it. Now he can charge higher prices for his produce because it stays fresher for much longer.
Before, we used to buy in small quantities. just enough to ensure we would sell out the same day. But now that we have a cold room, we can buy in bulk and store them without any problems. At any time, we can meet our customers' needs by simply fetching what they ask for from the cold room instead of asking them to come back the next day.
For many traders, however, cold storage remains a dream. Solutions like Cold Hub are still very limited, and there's enormous demand. Some 220 million people live in Nigeria, and the population is growing faster than almost any other country in Africa.
If you live in a city, I'm sure you are used to hearing the sound of airplanes crossing overhead. But have you ever wondered what happens to planes that are no longer fit to fly? Well, all sorts of things. Here are just a few examples in this week's Doing Your Bit.
Old planes normally end up on aircraft graveyards, like this one in Teruel, Spain. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, estimates that 700 planes go out of service every year, and the number is rising. Finding ways to reuse their parts is more important than ever.
So you're going to strip it down?
2 years ago, Shane Thornton and Kevin Regan embarked on a flight of fancy to upcycle old passenger planes. Since then, they have turned more than 30 aircraft parts into garden sheds, mobile offices, and holiday homes. An Aeropod costs between 20 and 45,000 euros, depending on its size and features.
We're basically buying them on their last flight. We've bought the fuselage, say as soon as it lands, we have one ordered. So everything else in the plane has been recycled and sent all over the world to be redone. Some of it's going back into planes to flying again. And the likes of what we're doing here, we're basically using nearly 80% of everything in the plane.
The walls and floor need more insulation, and the hull has to be rewired.
That's okay there, Shane. What do you like on that side?
The team can build a small house from plane parts in 2 to 3 weeks, complete with kitchenette and bathroom.
Tiny houses in America, in the States, is huge, and it's getting that way too here even. You know, people realise now that we can't build the big houses like we always did. You can't do it, like, you know. You can't heat them.
Thanks to their aviation roots, Aeropods are resilient and don't rust. That makes them a great option for coastal homes.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Doesn't everyone love to be by the seaside? The sand beneath your feet, looking out across the waves. But of course, beneath the surface, it's not always as idyllic as it seems. The sea is also at the mercy of human behavior. Dolphins are highly intelligent creatures, but like most marine life, they fall victim to traps set by humans. Now, scientists in France have devised ways to help dolphins steer clear of potential danger.
The dolphins in the Bay of Biscay off the west of France love to play. And they love to follow fishing boats. But it's a dangerous game. The marine mammals often end up caught in the fishing nets and die because they can't get back up to the surface to breathe. The fishers often throw the dead dolphins back into the sea, says Damien Chaumillon. He and a team of activists from the Sea Shepherd Marine Conservation Organisation are combing the beach at Sable d'Olonne today, looking for dead dolphins. Documenting the problem is important work.
The sea is choppy right now, and the wind and the currents wash the carcasses ashore.
An hour later, they find a male dolphin on the beach.
These marks are proof. This dolphin tried to free itself from a fishing net.
Sea Shepherd often puts dead dolphins like this on display in public places. The goal is to shock people into awareness and force politicians to take action. But many here disapprove of Sea Shepherd's methods. The fishing boats that might have caught the dolphin in their nets are docked in the port of Sable d'Olonne. As their catch dwindles and their income drops, fishers here are resorting to ever larger trawling nets. Guy Badu mainly fishes for cod. He admits that a dolphin gets caught in his nets every once in a while, but he's dismissive of Sea Shepherd's claims.
Just because a dolphin might have some visible marks from a fishing net, that doesn't automatically mean that's what killed it. It might have died of old age. We fishers have our doubts. We suspect that Sea Shepherd activists might be putting the dead dolphins on the beach in order to blame us.
But marine biologist Martin Beuillet from the Dolphinarium in Port Saint-Père says the situation in the bay is serious. He's already counted more than 900 dead dolphins washed up on the French coast since the start of the year. It's time to take action.
We all need to sit down together, and we all need to contribute to the solution. The fishers need to be able to do their jobs, and the dolphins need to have their habitat preserved.
Beuillet is researching ways to help. He's been tagging dolphins with sensors to study their sense of orientation. He's already figured out that dolphins mistake the nets for seaweed and then get caught in them.
Dolphins rely on echolocation to orient themselves. These nets should be redesigned to produce a louder echo. That way, the dolphins would perceive the nets as an obstacle and avoid them.
But redesigning the fishing nets will take time. The fishers have started attaching acoustic warning signals to the nets, but so far it hasn't helped. Both scientists and marine conservationists say a solution has to be found quickly. Trawling nets are unlikely to be banned anytime soon, but a workable compromise needs to be found, or the dolphins might soon vanish from the Bay of Biscay.
Wildlife populations are declining at an alarming rate all around the globe. They have plunged by an average of 69% in just under 50 years, and sadly, many of them may never recover. And sadder still, a lot of that loss could have been avoided.
Sad indeed, Sandra. That is why conservationists are doing what they can to inform people of the important part every animal plays in their local ecosystems. Here is one example from Zambia.
Limping away after an encounter with a trap. Lions and other big cats often fall prey to poachers, even in Kafue National Park. Another danger, poisoned carcasses left by livestock owners at the park's borders. Their way of stopping lions from eating their animals. But the poisoned meat doesn't just kill lions, vultures are also dying. To protect the endangered birds, biologists need a little help from the vultures themselves. Corinna Kendall and her team are attaching satellite trackers to their wings. The project in Zambia is headed by the North Carolina Zoo in the US, where Kendall works as a conservation specialist.
Satellite-tagged vultures are wide-ranging, and they give us great information about what's happening across the landscape. Most importantly, they're helping us to find poisoning, which threatens vultures and carnivores alike.
The vultures don't exactly enjoy being tagged, but it's not painful. Once it's over, they're happy to be free. So far, 19 vultures have been tagged with trackers. And in the 2 years the project's been running, the rangers have found 2 poisoned carcasses. That might not seem like much, but every vulture they save is important, because some species, like the ones in Kafue National Park, are especially endangered.
Both white-backed and hooded vultures are critically endangered species, so they're actually more endangered than lions. And they've declined rapidly, more than 90% in the last 30, 40 years. So we're really concerned about both species because they play such a critical role in terms of disease control and waste removal.
With projects like this one, the team hopes both rangers and residents will become more aware of the role vultures play in the ecosystem. And no more poisoned carcasses would also be good news for lions and other wild cats.
A little knowledge can go a long way when it comes to conservation. We know our planet's resources are finite, but knowing how to use the space around us as effectively as possible is another thing. How do rural communities decide whether to clear a forest for farming or leave it as a haven for biodiversity? In Guinea, they've devised a fun and constructive way of helping local leaders work that out.
If we put people here, how will it affect life in the forest? This strategy board game allows players to address issues related to their environment in an innovative and resourceful way. In today's session, public officials in Conakry are standing in for villagers in rural Guinea. A French environmental company and a Swiss organization are behind the project.
What we want to explore when playing the game is how can we as a village community, as an individual family, but also in the collaboration with our other village members, how can we, with our decisions, where we shape the development of our landscape around our village, and also how do we contribute to the natural resources and their preservation or also their destruction.
The game is part of an initiative that aims to promote more sustainable forest management in rural communities. Known as the Water Tower of West Africa because it is the source of several regional rivers, the Futa Jalon Highlands are suffering badly as a result of human activities. While parts of the area are protected, deforestation is still a serious problem here, as is the poaching of animals like chimpanzees. To address these and other issues, Tiano Keita shared the game with 3 communities. Today, he is in Pelal Kura.
The game board depicts the village and its surroundings. Each player represents one family group within the community. We have the Baldis, the Sos, the Diallos, and the Berry family. In addition, there's a forest with its resources and wildlife. And we have fallow lands, which are typical in Fouta Jalon, and there are also hunters.
The central focus of the game is to determine ways to manage resources sustainably and in harmony with nature. Each round represents one crop here. Over several rounds, the families have to decide individually or jointly where to plant, what to buy, and how best to invest their limited resources in order to manage their land sustainably. Alpha Diallo thinks the game has already had a positive influence on local thinking.
The game has helped us to see how to improve the way we can manage our territory, cohabitate with wild animals, and protect the forest.
At the end of the session, Diallo and his neighbors review their results and discuss future plans. They want to replant a deforested area with fruit trees and use fallow land more sustainably. They've also proposed concrete agreements between villagers and the local officials.
We decided to agree on conserving the forest, not to plant crops along the waterways, and to reforest this area all the way to the hill of Sete.
The people of Pelekura have recognized the benefits of nature conservation and will use what they've learned to determine better, more sustainable strategies going forward. After the success of its initial reception, the game is now set to be introduced in many other communities too.
That looks pretty interesting. How about you? What problems in your community would you like to see worked out on a game board? Why not write to us and tell us about it? Or just let us know how you liked today's program. That's all for this time. I am Chris Elems, signing off from Lagos State, Nigeria.
Bye, Chris. See you again next week, and that goes for you viewers out there as well. Until then, keep doing what you can to reduce food wastage and support conservation efforts in your local communities. I am Sandra Twinovideo saying so long from Kampala, right here in Uganda.